Okay, well, I just want to welcome everyone to DES 104. This is our last week of beginning image editing. Can you believe that? I really think time flies fast. Right after about week 3, it just kind of it goes. So we are working on our final projects for this week, and so this class will have a lot of demos, a lot of instructions on what to expect. The good news is your assessment shouldn't take very long at all. Maybe just a couple minutes. So I'm thinking maybe 20 minutes or less if you have kept up with the work and you're familiar with blending modes. So this should be a very simple project that shouldn't take too long. And then we're going to have our final assessment where we're going to make a poster, a social awareness poster, and we'll get into a little bit more about that. But before I start, I want to share my video and kind of give a little shout out to everybody. Hello. And then again, I've got my stockings are hung and we've got the Christmas tree up. I don't know if you can see. There we go. There's the top of it. So we're all ready to go. How about you guys? Everyone have their stockings up? Nope, not yet. Not yet. That's okay. For some, it comes with time. Sometimes it's crazy. I think one of my students said they were moving, so they weren't sure if they were even going to pull it out. So, yeah, so well, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Um, Happy Hanukkah, whatever everyone's celebrating this month, but we're glad that you all are here joining me today. So I'll go ahead and stop the video so we can jump right into our lectures here. So let's do a little refresher and talk about week 4. We'll do some housekeeping, and then I'm actually going to do most of the lecture in Photoshop. So that's the good news. We get to spend some time doing some designs and working with Photoshop today. So week 4 agenda. Let's talk about late submissions. I am accepting week 3 late work through Saturday. That's the deadline for everything. So here's the deal. Some students have submitted late work beyond the deadline, and I have been very lenient with accepting it. But what happens on Saturday at 11:59 p.m., the class locks you out. So you are no longer able to submit anything, and I'm no longer able to accept anything. So please be sure you get that in with more than enough time. So just kind of gauge yourself. If you've got other classes, other projects you're doing, just try to plan out your time a little bit so that you don't miss that deadline, because once it's over, and everyone kind of gets locked out. So welcome, Catherine. Thanks for coming. We're just going over the week 4 agenda right now, talking about late submissions. So week 3 late work is accepted through Saturday. If you have done week 3 and if you've already turned in week 3's project but want to get more points on your assignment, feel free to turn that in as well. So everything should be posted by Sunday. You should get your final grades by Sunday or Monday morning at the latest. And then, yeah, I think and then we're done with this class. So it's a little bittersweet. But let's talk about learning and using Photoshop. I want to ask, why are you taking this class? I know in the beginning I asked, is this a hobby? Is this for your career path? But what are you hoping to do with this class now that we've kind of explored Photoshop a little bit? Because I love it, of course, because it's fun. Anybody else? Why are you taking this class? Probably because it's required for the program, huh? It's a lot of fun. It will get you, if you're going to pursue the graphic design course, Photoshop, obviously you're going to need to know that any design work you kind of have to have a feel for Photoshop, definitely. Catherine, you want to learn as much about it as you can. Exactly. And it's kind of a lifelong learning process. I mean, I've been doing this for, oh gosh, I hate to admit it, about 15 years now, and I'm still learning things in Photoshop. So I'm not completely considered an expert in it, but I know my way around it, but I'm always learning new things, especially when I teach. I'm like, oh, well, that's a faster way to do that. Or, oh, I didn't know that you could get that same effect by doing X, Y, Z. So I'm always learning new things. And so I'm glad that you're in this to learn. Let's talk about what's expected for the final project, okay? First, let's talk about the discussion. We have 4 discussions. This is our last discussion for the week. Please be active in the discussion. This is how we're taking attendance. I can't emphasize the importance enough. If you're not present during the discussion, I can't give points for it. And there's no makeup work. So please, please, please make sure you post 2 separate days, multiple replies, or at least minimum of 2 replies to your peers, and then 1 good initial post with a substantial APA citation, your sources, and then like about 150 words minimum, I think is the requirement for that. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, I'm glad that you're getting a lot of the pre-recorded lessons. They do go quite into depth, and they talk about things that we don't really have time to cover. When you go through a 4-week mod course, you kind of have to pack as much information as you can. And while the pre-recorded lectures are awesome, especially this week's, we talked about the alignment, proximity, and the CRAP principles, contrast, repetition, all of those wonderful things. And we talked about that. And so in this class, we're not going to really talk about it, but we're going to implement it. So I kind of like looking at the pre-recorded lectures as kind of your basic principles, and then the live sessions, kind of how to implement them, how to put them in a project, how to kind of real world application. Yeah. So, and then Catherine says, we still have access to the pre-recorded videos after we're finished? We look forward to being able to look back to them. You know what? I'm not sure. I've never been on the student end of it. It's a good question. Maybe. I know you have access to all the Linda videos. So those are definitely, as far as the class itself, I'm not quite sure. But if you have YouTube, I bet you could kind of do a search and find it. Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm not 100% sure on that one, but I know, yeah, bookmark them. There you go. You'll find them later. All right. Well, let's talk about the discussion. So again, discuss the 4 major principles and elements of design. You will have learned that in the pre-recorded lecture. So if you're like, huh, what's that? Check out the pre-recorded lecture for week 4. And then it kind of briefly talks about contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity in the background of the discussion. But the point is we're talking about these principles and elements of design. We are learning about these. You're going to be critiquing a raster-based layout. Remember, raster is pixelated, like a picture or an image, as opposed to vector. And then you're going to be able to the whole point is to be able to apply these principles of design in an essential part of working professionally as a designer. So you're going to be asked to critique, and we have presented A and B examples. So for your initial post, you want to view the 2 designs that you're given and evaluate them in terms of their use of contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, all the CRAP principles. And then, and we really want to make sure you have a good foundation, a good understanding of these elements of design so that you can critique a design. It's kind of like being an instructor. You're critiquing a design. By doing this, you kind of become the teacher. So then you now kind of have a feel for what a design should look like. So as you're designing your poster this week, you be aware of the contrast, the repetition, alignment, proximity, all of these principles that we're learning. And then you're going to discuss how these 4 principles of design are used in either properly or improperly in design A and B. So you're kind of evaluate which one used it well, which one didn't. You're going to say why, and then which design is more successful in utilizing the principles of the design with placement and the elements that they used. What's your reasoning? Start talking a little bit about this, and then research some resources of constructive criticism techniques that you can put in your feedback to peers. It's always good to kind of see what's out there. So, and don't forget your citation. That's very important. That's free points if you include that. And are there any questions about the discussion? That kind of covers the discussion part of it. I see some students have already been active posting. That's wonderful. Don't forget, tomorrow is the deadline to get your initial 150 minimum word post in. Be sure to include your sources and cite them correctly if you can. If you haven't had a chance, that's okay. You have until tomorrow before midnight Mountain Standard Time. So, and then I've kind of made it easier so that you can see which posts are mine. I've I've kind of color coded them in orange, so you can kind of easily pinpoint what my comments are and my questions that I'm asking. So it's just a little easier to find. Everyone kind of blends in, and so yeah, it's easier to see kind of the, oh, that's Mrs. Woodland's comment, and then kind of see if I was referring to you at all. I try to address each student by name so you kind of know that post was for you. But if you see me ask a student a question, maybe help them out if you have the answer. So that is all we have for the discussion. So we'll go ahead and move on. Let's talk about the career integration. Now, I like to kind of bring this up because this often gets overlooked. We're used to only doing 2 assignments a week. There is a third assignment, and that's just a quiz. And all it is it's kind of an evaluation of how did the videos work for you? What did you learn? Questions we'll ask, they'll want specific details. What was most helpful? Was it the videos, the Linda videos, the lectures, or the readings? We just want to get a feel for what's working for you. How did you learn best in this class? And so you can give an honest opinion. You're not going to be graded on your opinion, but you will be graded on grammar and proper sentence structure, just as if you were writing a paper. So try to keep more than one sentence long, and try to include details so we can tell you were present during the class. Just little things that will let us know that you paid attention. So nothing major, and should be easy. 15 points. Just don't forget to do it. You won't get a 0 if you say anything negative. At least I don't give zeros. It says so? Oh, well. Well, I guess if you really have a problem, you guys can go in on the teacher evaluations and go post your real thoughts and feelings. I don't grade. I don't knock down points for negativity as long as I can tell that that student was present. If a student says I didn't learn anything, the lectures didn't go over any of the assignments, blah blah blah, then I will know, well, obviously that student did not watch these lectures, so that's incorrect. But we're just looking to see, what's working for you, what helped you in this class. So hopefully if you're honest about it, it will help give us good feedback that we can take and improve on the course for future students. So all right, well, let's talk about the assignment. How many have you guys looked at it at all? If you don't, go ahead and pull okay, you have looked it up. Okay, perfect. If you have it up, I want you to start downloading 4 of the, let's see, it says 3 pictures. So yeah, download 3 images. You're going to do a composite. What we're doing is we're creating a new document in Photoshop for the appropriate resolution needed for a web and a print project. So we're going to do 2 file formats. We're going to save it as a low-res JPEG for web, and then we're going to save it as a high-res PDF or a PDF for print. If you were doing this, in the industry, you kind of need both. You need to know how to convert it to JPEG, how to convert it to PDF. Now, as a professional graphic designer, you're going to need to utilize Photoshop's design tools in order to create advertisements and things that are appropriate format for both print and web. And so that's what we're going to practice. Also, understanding how to create each type of format is an essential part of working professionally. So this enables you as designers to kind of meet the needs of your clients as you go out in the real world, whether your clients need designs for print or for the screen. So that's what we're practicing here. And then it goes on to talk a little bit about web, the standard resolution for web, and the print resolution for print designs, how they differ and what's important. Also, the color mode is important. Print, you're going to be in CMYK color mode, whereas for the web, you're going to be in RGB color mode. And then it just talks about why it's different. So you can read that on the assignment if you have any questions. But for the prompt, for the specific week 4 final project assignment, you are going to be creating a social issue poster. Now, it kind of takes the brain work out of it for you. You don't have to come up with any slogans or social issue topics. They've given you a list to choose from. So they've given you a couple topics that you can choose. What you're going to be doing is creating an advertising campaign by a company called the Ad Council. And so feel free to look online for sample social issue posters. In fact, I do that all the time. Whenever I have a design project, I go to Google and I enter it in just to get some inspiration. What's out there? what's already been done, just so I can get those creative juices flowing. It gives me a better idea of the structure of the ad or what it should be looking like. And then you're going to pick a topic. Is it going to be bullying, obesity prevention, domestic violence, animal abuse, et cetera, et cetera? They've given you a list. You'll choose from that list. Oh, that's perfect. So you can relate to that one, right? That's wonderful. So some of these you might be able to relate to if you're a big animal lover. Maybe the animal abuse social issue would be a good topic. But basically, this is just to kind of help you not have to think too much about it. They'll give you a topic already. So you'll pick one on the list. And then for your assignment instructions, you're going to create a document. We'll get into the creating that soon. But if you haven't already, kind of browse the pictures that they've provided for you. Click on 3 of them. You do need 3 to be a composite. So make sure all of your photo elements are good choice, will go together. Please don't use any clip art or illustrations or graphics. Please use the images that have been provided. All right. And then what they've also kind of taken the brain work out of this for you is just choose a slogan for your campaign. They've given you a list of 10, 12 things to choose from. So it can be, if you were to do autism, maybe it would be, let's see. Well, they don't really have one for, I don't know. You could pick I don't know, be the change you wish to see in the world or something like that. If it was animal abuse, maybe it could be no compassion, no peace, or being cruel isn't cool, or whatever. They've given you the slogans, the compassion one. Yeah, I think that would work. Anyways, you can choose. Point being, just use the principles of contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And even though we aren't going to be going over those specifically in this class today, it was covered in the pre-recorded lecture for week 4. So check that out. And also keep that in mind when you're designing your poster and utilizing the slogan. We want to make sure that the most important things are large on the page, less important or smaller. Make sure you use size to make things stand out or to sit out. You can also create a fictional website, a URL to include at the bottom of your poster, and you can and make sure that you export this as a full-size PDF and then export it as a JPEG, and I'll show you how to do that when we jump into Photoshop. So that is assignment 4. Any questions? As always, you can look at the sample examples under the benchmark examples to kind of see what's already been done, what we're expecting from you. Okay, no questions, pretty straightforward. All right, we talked about late submissions. Make sure you get your week 3 submissions in. If you have any questions about your grade, now is the time to bring it up. Once Saturday hits, or midnight hits, I'm not able to get into the grade book anymore. I can't adjust grades. So just be sure that you're following along and making sure that your grade is correct. That's a good question. I believe you can. It will look significantly different. So if I were you, I would probably design in CMYK and then convert to RGB. That's the way I would do it, but I think it's fine. Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Just when we're converting, we'll change that color mode depending on what file size or file type we're using. Good question. Okay, file formats, how to save the right format. Okay, so check the announcements, check your assignment. We're going to make sure that the correct file name, you're going to be graded on this. Follow instructions carefully. Go slow. Make sure you're getting all the points possible. If you're wondering, just in case there's no surprises, the grading rubric is posted so you can see before you submit what is going to be what you're going to be graded on. So with this being the final project and no resubmission afterwards, I would highly recommend you check out the grading rubric to make sure you kind of cross your T's, dot your I's. You get everything all in order. before you submit. All right, and then we already talked about why you're taking this class. To get a good grade, a degree. The goal is not to get an A and just be able to follow the demo. What I really hope for you is that you take the demos or the things that we've talked about in class in Photoshop and kind of try to get creative and apply them in your own sphere. The goal is for you to be able to use these tools on your own. That's the hope, that when you leave this class, you have a pretty good understanding of layer masks. You have a pretty good understanding of what selection tools are, and that you kind of feel comfortable in that sense. So you'll definitely need to practice more on outside projects, and you will as you continue. But just like Catherine said, kind of keep going back to these videos, keep watching, and you'll get it in no time. All right. So we kind of talked a little bit about our careers earlier in the mod, but creating original artwork, how would this help? How would using shape tools and the brushes or blending modes help in your creating original artwork when you move on? Anyone? I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities to use several different tools depending on the project in Photoshop, and being familiar with these will help you be able to work faster, more efficiently, and give you confidence when you go into the software. And that's my hope, at least. And then Amanda says it will create a more rounded and detailed design if you know how to use the tools. Absolutely. And as we've come to discover, there's not just one way of doing things in Photoshop, to get the same result. So you can try new things, but there are faster ways and more time efficient tips and tricks like keyboard shortcuts and how to access tools from the keyboard. Little things like that will help save you a lot of time. So it'll be a lot more issue. Yeah, confidence is a must too. We want to feel confident when we apply for our jobs or we move forward when we graduate. So we want to make sure we have a good handle on what we're doing now. Okay, we'll go into Photoshop tools and techniques in just a minute. I do want to talk about the assessment really quick. All right, so like I said, the assessment shouldn't take you very long at all. You're going to be using 3 best practices for editing and resizing raster-based images. So understanding best practices will ensure you will work professionally and efficiently when employed as a graphic designer, just like we talked about. Working efficiently means using non-destructive processes, which I've been trying to emphasize all mod long. And this is because this is so that you can easily and quickly make changes to a project based on your employer's wishes. Time equals money, as we all know. And if you work efficiently, you will be able to meet deadlines, please clients, get more customers, make more money. That's the overall point of all of this. So in this assessment, we will apply 3 simple resizing and editing techniques to raster-based images, similar to the one that you might use in your professional career. You're given one image, and then you're given a couple backgrounds, some texture backgrounds. You're going to need to know how to do this as a graphic designer, like resizing, adjusting, and blending modes are very important. So we're going to be looking at some best practices in this assessment. Let's talk about resizing. What does it mean to resize something? Yeah, to change its size. And we all know how to access the transform tool, correct? So that you can scale something down. Absolutely. And then let's talk about adjusting. So in order to work non-destructively, all recoloring, brightness, contrasting adjustments, any other adjustments should be made on what? The original artwork or a separate layer? Definitely. A separate layer. Yep, exactly. And why is that? What have we learned? Yep, non-destructive editing, the NDE. Exactly. You want to keep your native pure file because This is so that changes and adjustments can easily be made as your client requests them or as your teacher requests them. If you make something blue permanent or you cut something out permanently, and then I say, oh, put that back in or change it to purple instead, there's no way that you'll be able to go fix that unless you have to start all over if you use a destructive editing technique. So it's always important to create that extra layer, those separate layers, and apply changes to that instead. Yep, it's gone forever. I love the dramaticism. Dun dun dun. Exactly. So, and then the other one is the blending. So to apply effects such as textures to an image or design, which is what we're going to do an assessment for, it's really important to understand how to change the blending mode of a layer to achieve the best results. So there are 4 specific blending modes you're going to need to apply in your assessment. So let's open up our Photoshop real quick before we continue. If we have more time, I'll go into the other slides, but I did want to open up Photoshop. So let's go ahead and get into this because we've got a lot to cover. Good, and you're already ahead of the game. You know I'm going to ask, download pictures. It's always more helpful if you have the pictures so that you can follow along instead of, wait, what? I'm still downloading. So if you can get it up, let's see, Catherine, are you going to be following along with us today? Do you need some time to pull some pictures down? Okay, so while you're downloading, I'm just going to go over a review. Yep, that's a great practice. That's a best practice, Amanda. So what she's doing is she downloaded every picture that's been offered for future projects and practice. So that's a great idea to practice at home, even after this class. Again, we move quick, so it's important to, most of the work's going to have to be done on your end. Okay, so go ahead and get them pulled up. I'm simply going to show you how to resize an image. So this is all straight review. So the first texture I pulled in is kind of this starry night, this stargazing, beautiful picture actually. So I'm going to go to File, or no, Edit, Transform, Scale. That's how we're going to adjust the size. Now, do we, squish it and drag it? Is that how we resize an object? Yep, that's right. We hold Shift down before we expand a picture or decrease the size of a picture. So what I'm going to do here is take my first texture. So with resizing, and I'm going to resize this to the shape of the square. I'm going to get it as close as I possibly can. That looks about right. So resizing, so when you're resizing an image on a document, you always want to maintain the same height to width proportion so that you don't skew or distort. Now, skewing is squishing or stretching or, doing something to the fact where it's beyond recognition. So it just does not constrain the proportion. So you definitely want to hold down Shift when you resize. An image where the height and width aspect ratios get changed is going to look really stretched or squished together. So the easiest way to do this is, like I said, hold down the Shift button when resizing something and never make a small file larger than its original size. Don't try to expand it too big. Otherwise, if you'll notice, it starts getting really pixelated, and that's not what we want. We want to preserve the clarity of the picture. So Amanda says, why is mine inverted? It will keep the size equal if I move it around, but if I press and hold Shift, it goes wonky size. Why don't you go ahead and pull up your screen and we'll get that fixed for you. Are you able to pull that up, Amanda? There we go. Okay, so are you on the assessment or the assignment? Here, I'll tell you what.
How about that? Is that better?
There we go. Yeah.
I'm on the assignment, but I did this mostly to show you what I mean. If I go to resize it, shoot, and P. If I go to resize it, just regular, it's constraining the proportions. But when I press shift, like you guys tell me to, then it
It's
doesn't.
doing the opposite.
It's doing the opposite, and I'm really confused.
A couple things. I would deselect. Command D will deselect everything. Unlock your layer. And then go to scale, or sorry, edit at the top. Transform, and then scale. Okay, now hold down shift. Still not working? Are you on a laptop?
I am on the MacBook Pro.
So it's opposite for you then. Okay, don't hold anything down and you can still resize.
Yeah, it resizes perfectly and keeps the proportions correct.
That's
It's
really odd. Well, that's good to see for anyone at home who's doing this and is like, what the heck is Mrs. Woodland saying? She said hold down shift. I'm not quite sure why it's inverted like that. Perhaps it could be the MacBook. Catherine, are you able to resize with holding shift down? Yours does that too. Are you on a MacBook? Okay, so I'm wondering if it's a MacBook thing. Yeah, not sure about that. Well, at least you're able to still resize it by constraining the proportions, and that's what's important. But it is confusing, and I'm glad that we now know for anybody who's watching at home saying, well, I'm holding down shift and it's not working. So at least we know that if you are working from the laptop or the MacBook Pro, that it probably has it flip-flopped. So, all right, that's good to know. Sorry about that. But if for some reason it's looking like Amanda's where it's skewing the proportions, hold down shift. If it seems to be fine, don't worry about it. All right, so now that we've resized our image, so for this assessment, you're going to place and resize 4 different textures over an image to see what the results look like. So I'm going to grab the other one. So the way that we do that is once you have opened your tree file, you're going to go to File, Place Embed, and I'm just going to grab texture 2 and place it. And then it'll ask you, do you want to rasterize anything? I'm just going to hit OK. All right, and it places it in there for you. So again, we want to constrain the proportions, whatever that means for you and the device you're working on, that's okay. So the idea here is to get it perfectly aligned. And then hit save or place. So we've got them covering each square. Now here's the thing, I want you to pay close attention to down here at the bottom. Do you see how it's not quite lined up? We need to fix that. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and Scale. Kind of zoom out just a little bit so I can see. I'm going to make sure this is lined up. All right. I'll hit place. So that looks pretty good. So now it's even, as you can see, if you zoom in. So we've got them lined up pretty close together. So you want to be mindful of that. You don't want the square hanging out over the edges of the other squares. We want this to be evenly placed. I'm going to do the same thing again for the next 2. Go to Place, Embed, hit Place. And some will be larger than others, but for this one, I'm just going to expand it, hit Place. go to File, Place, Embed, and do the fourth one. Now, if you're following along, I'll hold off until you can get these images placed, but the idea here is we're just trying to see, are you familiar with how to resize an object? That's a kind of a review. And then do you know how to constrain the proportions when you do so? Well, it's how you would put an image in. How, are you just wanting to drag and drop? You don't have to do it this exact way, no. Oh, bridge is fine. Yeah, bridge is fine. You can even drag the picture into Photoshop. That's fine too, so long as you have your layers. Yep. Again, you'll find that there's more than one way to do things in Photoshop. For some people like that because they're not stuck to just one way or doing the thing the instructor says. However, some others, wish there wasn't multiple ways to do it because then they got to remember all the different steps. But this is definitely one of those things where, yes, if you feel like you want to drag and drop into Photoshop, that's fine. Place, file, place, embed, or you can go through bridge. That's totally fine too. So once I have my pictures placed, I'm going to zoom in here and make sure everything is lined up correctly. Corners are touching, there's no overlapping, everything looks good. And my layers are all in there and visible. So now I'm going to click on my first layer. Now it's helpful when you're in here to maybe rename them because they're all named the same. Maybe you could just start out with stars, texture 1. This one could be blue pattern, texture 2. Double click on the layer to change the name. This could be gold, texture 3, and then this one is white, texture 4. Just something that labels it that you would, a heating grate, yeah. Or a metal speaker, perhaps. Not quite sure what that is. It's kind of like a little pattern of some sort. But yes, name it whatever you want, just as long as just kind of get in the habit of naming your layers because, whoops. Because as you work with multiple layers, I designed a website once and I had over 150 layers. So it gets really confusing and then you start grouping those layers. So as it's kind of to show you, you can hold down Shift and select your layers. Then you can right click and hit group. And then you can name your group. So this would be all the textures. And then it would group them so that you can move multiple layers at a time. But that's just FYI. It's not necessary when doing this. But I just wanted to show you that that is an option. As you start getting more comfortable with these, you're going to need to be able to organize it a little bit more. All right, so this is my last texture. So I've labeled them. This is not required, but it does help me stay organized so I know which one I'm on. So I'm going to click on the first texture here. And now after I have all the textures placed over each of the tree squares, what I'm going to do now is change the blending modes to the appropriate setting for each texture. So now we talked about the blending modes to apply effects such as textures to an image or a design. And it's important to understand how to change the blending mode of a layer to achieve the best result. Now they've asked us to use overlay. Overlay is the first one. You'll come up here to the top of your layers panel where it says normal, and you'll click that drop down menu and you'll look for overlay. It's in the middle right here. Does everyone see it? If you click on overlay, you'll see the effect that it gives you. Now, please note each texture will look different because you're going to be using different blending modes. So they're not going to look the same. But overlay is kind of one of my favorite ones. It's almost kind of this faint backdrop to, it gives it a really nice texture to the image. So overlay is ideal for adding texture, as we can see. Let's click on the blue pattern. And the next one we're gonna be working in this drop-down menu. We're gonna look for color. Color's all the way at the bottom. So you click on color. It almost removed all the color, didn't it? It still kind of preserved that honeycomb pattern in there. Or what did you say, the carbon fiber, a metal speaker? It still preserved the pattern, but it took out most of the color. And this is ideal for colorizing an image. So this is why you would use it. Okay, the next texture we're going to go over is the gold texture. We have to set this one to multiply. Again, all the blending modes are up here in the top. You'll kind of scroll down till you get to multiply, and it's at the top here. And there you go. So what this blending mode is ideal for is making black opaque and white transparent. So because this was a darker color, it kind of gave it an opaque, a transparent look to the color, almost see-through. It still preserved the texture of it and the color, but it gave it some kind of transparency so that you could see the tree behind it. So that was kind of a cool effect. It's a gold foil tree. It's pretty cool. All right, our next texture is the white texture. And the last requirement asks us to use the screen blending mode. So it's right down here in the middle. If you click on screen, we'll see what effect it makes. Okay, so that tree's still poking through. It didn't change much. What this does is it's ideal for making white opaque and black transparent. So it's the opposite of what multiply does. So the white is now kind of see-through, and you can kind of see that tree poking out of it a little bit. All right, so that's all that we need to do for the assignment portion. We're going to place a hue and saturation adjustment layer over the whole document, and we're going to use the color of our choice. So we'll get to that point in just a minute. But if you would all please try to place your images in here and play with the blending modes. I'm going to give you some time to do that, maybe 2 or 3 minutes on the clock. And just, even if you just get one placed, let me know, and then I'm going to have you share your screen so I can make sure that you understand the steps and that we're good to move forward. So give me a little smiley face if you've got one placed or all. We'll put 2 minutes on the clock to do that. That's okay, Catherine. So if you'll share your screen, I'll let you drive. We'll step you through it. No, that's what we're here for. I feel like we learn better if you're in the driver's seat. So why don't you pull your screen up? Perfect. All right. So, Catherine, what I'm going to do, I'm going to unmute your mic so that you can talk. That way there we go.
Okay.
Okay. So you lost me at where to go after you have your lectures, or your textures placed?
Yes, I got stuck on it. I don't even know what I clicked on, but I couldn't get it to go back to regular. And then the whole time you were talking, I was trying to figure it out.
Oh, that's fine.
The juggling the screens too.
So that's okay. So we're just going to be changing the blending modes. So you need to change the blending. It tells you what blending modes under the assessment for those of you watching, but the first one is overlay.
Okay.
And so you'll go to that normal, see where it says normal at the top of your layers panel? Your layers panel that's open, it says normal. Yep, you're going to use that drop down menu and you're going to look for overlay. It's kind of in the middle there.
Okay. Okay.
And then you notice already how it has changed the look of the picture, right? So this is ideal for adding texture to our pictures.
Okay.
Then click on the next texture. Now this one is color. You're going to be looking for color for the blending mode. And the color blending mode is ideal for colorizing an image. It takes the color out of the background kind of, and it leaves that pattern. And then the third, this one is multiply. So you'll look for multiply.
Okay.
Yeah. And it actually looks like that
This one.
3 is, oh, no, that's right. That tree is fine. It looks like whoever submitted this picture skewed it a little bit. Okay, so then the fourth one is the screen blending mode. So that one, so multiply, so the screen and multiply do the opposite of each other. So multiply is ideal for making the black opaque and the white transparent, and the screen is ideal for making white opaque and the black transparent. So you see your different effects. So yep, it all looks good. And that's all we've talked about so far. So
am I still able to go in and change that where it's not?
You sure can. Yep. Just go to scale, or transform, and then go to scale, and you can adjust that.
Okay.
And yeah, that's where we're at right now. Great job.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Amanda, are we feeling good? Did you want to share your screen, or? Do they need to be placed in a certain order as you showed? I did it in order as they were labeled, texture 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I would say yes, they need to be placed in that order. Just to keep things consistent. Yep, and then just do your best to try to keep them as close, you know, adjust the corners and points and make sure everything is lined up. All right, and let me know when you guys are ready to move forward. And we'll go to the next step of this assessment. All right, so the next thing that we're going to want to do is add a hue and saturation adjustment layer over the whole document. And we want to use the color, you can choose what color, it doesn't matter, but we just need to see that you've adjusted it so that this becomes yours. And the way to do that is, I usually like to select all the layers. The way you can do that is click on one, hold down Shift, and then click on the bottom one, and it selects them all. That's probably the easiest way, is hold down Shift as you select them. And then here at the bottom is where, you remember where we find our adjustment layers. You can even hover your mouse over it. It says create new fill or adjustment layer. And then this is where we'll choose from, but we want hue and saturation. So we're going to choose the hue and saturation adjustment layer, and we're going to apply it over the document. So what you can do is change the hue a little bit. We'll pick the color. You'll notice how there's a big change even over your textures, depending on which spectrum you're on. And then you can adjust the saturation. So how intense do you want the color? How pastel do you want the color? You can even go as far as sepia. It almost looks like sepia there. So we're just adjusting the hue and the saturation portion of this, just so that it looks like you did something. Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you time to do this. If you have finished it, I want you to share, if you're willing, to share your screen so that you can kind of show everyone how you applied that hue and saturation. Now, would you like me to show it one more time? Everyone get that? Okay, no problem. So let me delete this. All right, so once you have all, this will only work once you have your layers placed. But what you're going to do is hold down Shift and select all of your layers. So I held down Shift. You can either click on each one or click on the top and bottom. It will select them all. So with them all selected, you're going to go at the bottom here where you can add a new adjustment layer. And then you're going to want to click on Hue and Saturation. Now this is all under the steps of the assessment, so if you kind of miss anything that I'm saying, you can go and look at those steps. And it will pull up a properties box here. Does everyone see that properties box if you're following along? Are we at this point? Okay, perfect. So all we have to adjust is the hue and the saturation portion of this. So you can go, as far to one edge of the spectrum as you want. We're just making this look more custom. There we go. So I think I found a good balance. I'm happy with this. I'll close out of my properties box, and you'll notice that I have my hue and saturation layer over the whole document. So it's not only at the top, but it also is being applied to all 5 of my layers. Are there any questions? Yeah, pretty simple. Like I said, this shouldn't take too long. In fact, if you finish it in class and show it to me before you leave, you could get some points for it now. So pretty simple. And then you'll be done with one assignment. So when we go to break, I haven't changed the native file. I selected it so it would be applied to it, but I can always hide the hue and saturation. It will not affect my original layer. Yep. In fact, you probably could get the same effect if you only selected the textures, but it wanted it applied to the whole document. Hue and saturation layer can always be removed or adjusted. And if you ever close out of the properties box and you want to know how to access it again, just here on the left with this little gradient icon, if you double click that, it will pull up your properties panel for you, and then you can make any adjustments that you need. In this case, though, Amanda brings up a good point. She says, well, you selected your background layer and you made a change to it. All I did was I applied a layer to it, an adjustment layer. That layer can be removed at any time or adjusted. So I didn't do anything to the original layer. I just added a adjustment layer to it. Does that make sense? But that's a good point, and it's a good catch. Yeah, that's kind of confusing when we include it, huh? All right, would anyone like to share their screen and demonstrate their hue and saturation that they put on it? All right, if not, we'll just keep continuing on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna now save this. This is how we're gonna save it. Now the submission requirements ask that you save the file as a PSD file, but you're going to save it, also save it as a JPEG with 100% quality, and you're gonna submit the JPEG for grading. So don't bother sending the PSD file. But don't flatten your layers in your PSD file, and just keep it in case I ask you to make changes, okay? That's okay. Take your time. We're also going to go to break here in a few minutes, so you'll have time to work on that as well. All right, so let's get started. So I'll reemphasize the fact you'll need to save a PSD file. It's your original artwork, but then you're going to save, you're going to go to File, Save As, and you're going to save it as a JPEG. And this JPEG is what you're going to submit to me for the final project. So make sure that you have it DES 104, you've got the week 4 assessment, and then you have the first last name saved submission format. And then we're going to hit save. And then once you hit save, it will create that JPEG for you. You will want to make sure that we save this as 100%. So large file, quality 12, hit OK. And then you'll submit the JPEG for grading. So you don't need to submit the Photoshop file, only the JPEG. Kind of makes sense? Now, it's always a best practice to keep all of your native and working files. I can't emphasize this enough, especially if you plan on doing any resubmissions this week. You need to use, whenever you create a project, you need to always have your Photoshop file or your PSD file, so that you can, always go back to it if you need to. You will need these when you reach your portfolio or your capstone course, because maybe your advisor or whoever you're working with on your portfolio will have you make some changes or tweaks. Always make sure you have these with you. So continue with the best practice, because a client may want to reprint or make changes on an existing project on a later time. It doesn't matter where you are in life, you always want to save an original file. All right. All right, so while you're working on that, I'm just going to go back to the slides. We're going to tidy up what we didn't finish, and then we're going to go to break, and then we're going to jump into our final project, which is the assignment, and that usually takes a little bit longer. Okay, we talked about discussion 4, design evaluations. You're gonna make sure you watch the pre-recorded lecture first. I'm going to be looking for terminology that we've been using in class, name of tools, names of techniques, names of adjustment layers, blending modes. Be sure to use quotation marks on any text that you copy or any research that you find, and cite your sources so that it's not confused with your own words and your own work. But my information posts, like I said, will be in orange, so it's easy to spot. And then any peer comments, go beyond just agreeing and compliments and praise. Make sure that you expound on the topic and ask questions. Get the conversation going. Contribute additional information, and don't feel like because I asked one student a question that you can't answer it. I would love, it's open to everybody. I may address someone specifically and put a question in my reply, but it's open to everyone. So just make sure you do that. And then when it comes to the benchmarks, look at, but don't copy the benchmarks. You'll lose more points than you'll gain doing that. So anyways, hopefully there's no questions on discussion 4, but just be sure to stay active so you can get those easy points. All right, and we just talked about the assessment. Okay, so we talked about resizing and adjustment layers. We downloaded and opened the background image. We placed and embedded sized each texture to fit one square. We placed it over each tree square, and then we changed the blending mode for each. Now, if you were wondering which blending modes you're supposed to use, it's all under the assessment. Then after we did that, we applied a hue and saturation adjustment layer to change overall colors as you'd like. And that one you can adjust however you feel is best. Tips and reminders, look at the images, kind of evaluate how they'll be best used. And then again, we talked about holding shift to resize, but if you're on a MacBook Pro, perhaps that is reversed. So just be aware of that as we saw today. And then a reminder about the career integration quiz, minimum 50-word answers. So please be sure that you give detailed responses. One-sentence responses aren't going to get you many points. Yeah, well, just to let you know, I don't think the tree pictures are aligned to themselves, so don't be too hard on yourself. But as long as we can tell that you tried to align them, that's all that matters. And again, this is a good point. Catherine's saying that she might redo this because the overlays aren't lining up. If she had used a destructive editing technique, she would not have been able to go back and adjust. She would have to start all over. So it's important that you use those non-destructive editing techniques. All right. So again, the career integration minimum 50-word answers include something specific from this course so that I know that you were paying attention. Deductions if the answer could be applied to any course. I do deduct points if it's very generic answer, like a teacher was great, or I enjoyed the lectures. I want to know what about those lectures you enjoyed. Did you like the class demos? Did you like the class readings, specifically the week 1 readings where we talked about XYZ? I want you to be a little bit more specific. So the feedback helps us evaluate the course content, and it also helps evaluate the instructor. So if we're not doing a good enough job, we need to know it so we can fix that and kind of improve on the student experience. So this is very helpful. It'll also be helpful to your grade because if you lost some points anywhere along the way, this is an extra 15 points. So make sure you take it. Don't forget it. Most students think they turn in their 2 assignments and they're done, but there's just one extra one they tack on at the end of the mod, so be aware of that, okay? Multi-sessions are not on Thursdays. I apologize, that has not been updated. But if you need any more, whoops, I'll change that now. It'll be Wednesday. And the time did not get updated, so I apologize. So that is same time as we have always had it, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., and that's Pacific Standard Time. If you cannot make my multi-session, please be aware that other times are listed on the PDF under the announcements. 100 level multi-sessions are open to all students, even if you have that instructor or not, and we're here to help. Now, if you need more help throughout the week, please contact our learning coach, DJ, and the Student Success Center. And by now, everyone should know how to access it, but if not, you can access it on the course homepage, under under Student Success Center, I believe. If there's enough time at the end of class, I'll show you, I'll kind of demo how to access that so everyone knows how to get help. Drop Dead deadline is Saturday at 11:59 p.m. to get this in Mountain Standard Time as well. Okay, and that concludes our slides. Are there any questions so far? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our 10-minute break, and we'll stop here. They'll give you some time to work on the assessment. You can show me if you want some points at the end of class, and we'll enter your grade, or just bring it to the multi-session tomorrow. That's fine too. No pressure to get it done today. And then we'll come back in 10 minutes and finish up our final assignment. Cannot believe we're already in the last week. It's crazy. All right, guys. See you soon. All right, so how's everyone doing? We feeling confident? Are there any questions now that we've kind of started working in it? Think you got it? Okay, so I also wanted to point out when you're doing your design, we want to make sure that our smart guides are turned on in our grids. The way that you do that is go to View at the top of Photoshop. It's your drop-down menu. And then scroll all the way down to, let's see, Snap to Guides, Snap to Grid. And just make sure that this is turned on, that it's checked marked, so that you see kind of have my grid system. I've got the grids going across vertically and horizontally. So I've got this to kind of help me align things. And I've also got my rulers kind of snapping things into place. If that's the case, just make sure you're deselected off of anything, that you don't have anything selected when you go into view. You don't have something selected or anything like that. But it is important to have. Okay, have you selected off of anything? Okay, why don't you go ahead and share your screen. We'll make sure that they're turned on. Oh, sorry. Amanda, there we go. Way to jump in there. We'll do you in just a minute. Go ahead and go to view at the top of your, yep, and then click on guides. Go back to view real quick. Go click on snap. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's got snap. Perfect. That's all you need. Rulers are on and snap to guides are on. Okay, perfect. Let's have Catherine share her screen real quick, if you will. Okay, now go to view at the top of your screen. Yep, and that means grids or guides and grids and grid. Click on rulers above it. Now go back to view. Perfect. And it's showing its checked mark. You just can't access it. So it must be something in your settings, but it's all good. It's showing it. Perfect. All right, guys. So we have a little bit of time left, and I want to make sure that we get to the actual assignment, kind of give you an overview. We talked about the requirements. I'm just going to jump into the design portion. What we're going to do here, we talked about web, we talked about print. For this assignment, it's going to be a social issue poster. We're going to create a document that is 17 inches tall and 11 inches wide. So at the top of our Photoshop screen, we're going to go to File, New. We're going to start with a completely new document to make sure our dimensions are correct. And it's doing a lot of thinking right now, so bear with me. Perfect. Okay, if it will let me make changes. All right, and this is where we're going to save it as our DES 104 assignment for first and last name. That's how you're going to save it. You will get deducted points if it's not saved like this, so please be aware that that is the format. All right, they said 11 inches, height is 17 inches, so we're making a poster size, and we want the orientation to be portrait, okay? Just like as if you were going to hang a poster. And then we need to change the resolution to 300, and the pixels per inch, that's fine. DPI is pixels per inch. So 300 is the DPI, and I think we are good to go. So we'll hit create. Perfect. Okay, So we've got our document, and if you've already downloaded 3 or more of the photo elements, you can start to create your composition. You need to have at least 3 composited together into your poster. You can also choose them from these photos below. If you choose to use other photos, we'll talk about that in a little bit if we have some time. You can go to pexels.com, and I will write that in the chat book if you need to find any free high resolution photos. So pexels.com. And again, I don't really care as long as this is, as long as these are not watermarked imagery, it needs to be high res photography. So either the images that were provided to you or the photos that you find there. What I am going to be looking for in this assignment is, did you create the document correctly? Are your layers correct? Did you use non-destructive editing? And did you implement our layer masks, our clipping masks, text masks, everything that we've been learning in class so far? So I want to see a wide range of different techniques used and different effects and blending modes. So let me let my Photoshop catch up for just a minute. What we're going to do, I'm going to show you just kind of a brief overview of how we did our text masks. So how you can fill text with images is kind of another way of saying it. So you've got your layers panel, and I'm going to close out of this so that we can kind of back up for a minute. So I've got my image here. This is the globe that I pulled in from the class, from the picture that the class provided. And I'm going to grab my type tool. Let's see. Clicking T on the keyboard. I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to expand this box a little bit. All right, so I'm using one of the slogans that they provided, hope, not hate. And I'm going to also kind of adjust things. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Kind of expand this middle word for emphasis. And then I'm going to change the spacing. This can all be done under Window. If you go to Character, all I'm doing is changing the leading, or I'm sorry, the leading between right here, between the words. Keyboard shortcut on my Mac is the Option button and the down arrow after you've highlighted the leading value. Because it's so big, it's going to take a little while. And I'm kind of trying to keep the letters connected slightly so that the picture kind of blends in with it. Looks good to me. Now that I've got my type placed, where did my toolbar go? Give me 1 second. There they are. Okay, that disappeared on me for a minute. Okay, now that I have my type placed, we're going to learn how to create a type mask. So I kind of went over this last week, but I wanted to do this as a refresher course. So you're going to carefully hover. You're going to make sure that your layers are aligned right. And just for the sake of, I'm just going to delete. Okay. I'm going to delete these extra layers so that it's not confusing. So I've got my image layer and I've got my type layer. We just need to rearrange the order. So you want your picture layer to be over your text, just like that. Does everyone see that? And you're going to carefully hover your cursor in between the 2 layers. When you do that, hold down the Alt button and you'll notice how your mouse changes shape. with a down arrow and a white square box. This cursor should turn into kind of a different icon with that you see here. If you click once in between the layers, it will create a text mask, text clipping mask, basically. Your text should now contain the pixels of the photo, but the shape of the text is still preserved and the image is still preserved. We're just using a clipping mask to do it. You can select the move tool to kind of move the picture around within the letters, which is kind of helpful too. On either side. You can also go to edit, transform, scale, and you can adjust the picture size within the text just like this. So this kind of is a cool effect. I think it adds a little bit more, it kind of spices up your text a little bit, adds a little bit more visual interest to your message. So this could kind of be a neat way to incorporate that third image. No, it does not have to be. So Amanda's asking, can it only be 3 pictures? It does not have to be only 3 pictures. It's just a minimum of 3. So if you have an idea, you want to use the word for your text clipping, that's cool. 3 other people for your picture, kind of like, yep, that's fine. No problem. Yeah, so just a minimum of 3. You won't get docked points for going over that, but that's a good question. So that's just a quick way of how to create a text clipping mask. And selecting the move tool will allow you to move the picture within the text. You can also resize it. And once I get it placed right where I want, everything looks good. Another thing that you can do, I'm going to resize this again by going to Edit, Transform, and Scale. I'm going to expand my globe. And I'll hit Save to apply the changes. Now I'm going to add a drop shadow. So I'm going to click on my type. So if you're using a busy background, you're probably going to want to use some sort of a drop shadow. You don't have to, but because I have a busy message, and if I put it on a busy background, I'm going to need to have some way to make it stand out. So I'm going to go to, let's see, is it filter? No, hang on, it's muscle memory. Oh, layer style. That's what I want to do. Okay. So I'm going to go to layer, click on layer style. Notice I have my type layer selected, and then I'm going to go to drop shadow. So I'll show you how to do that. Layer, layer style, drop shadow. So you'll notice how it pulls in that drop shadow, and I can adjust the size. It will show me over here in this right-hand box, if you can see that, what it's doing, and the spread, you know, how much spread. I like to use a subtle spread. And then the distance. How far away is the drop shadow from your letters? And I like a subtle drop shadow, nothing too major, just something that kind of makes it pop off the page a little bit. You can even change the color of your drop shadow if you'd like. Over here, by double clicking this screen, or right here, this little black square box, you can adjust it by giving it color picker, moving the color picker around. All right, so now this has a subtle drop shadow on it. It's got my text clipping mask, which is pretty simple to put together. And now what I'm going to do is go to this adorable dog picture, and I'm going to demonstrate what's called a shape layer plus a clipping mask. And if we have time, I'll show you a video, but I just wanted to kind of show you the steps. Very similar. What you're going to do, let me delete this shape here. The clipping mask is the same, only instead of text, we're going to use a shape. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to use my shapes tool. Now you can use the preset shapes they have here, or go to custom shape tool. And by doing that, here at the top, you can choose a wide selection of different shapes. So if I were to use this one, this custom one. Using the move tool, I can kind of move it around. I can go to image, I'm sorry, edit, transform, and scale to resize it. And you can even use, you can even select these anchor points and kind of move them around, but I'm going to maintain the shape right here. And so once I have my shape drawn, do you remember what we do? What's the next step? Yeah, you bring the image layer to the top, you hold down your option button, and when you see your mouse, the icon change, you click in between the layers. Very good, Amanda, exactly. So now you can see that your image was cropped, and I can move it around to see if I want to fit more than one dog in there. I can even go to edit, transform, and I like his ears, so I might kind of rotate this. Go to free transform. Maybe I'll rotate my shape instead. Apply that. I'll go to my shape, and then I can go to edit, free transform. Perfect. So I've got this little guy. I can even just do him. There we go. And I can apply that. Okay, and then on this one, you can do a layer mask if you wanted to. And I inverted it. But in this case, I'm probably just going to go and back it up. So anyways, that's how you do the shape layer plus the clipping mask. So did everyone get that? It's the same steps as the text. Just make sure the image is on the top, hold down Alt or Option, and it will, and click in this in between the layers. It's a pretty simple step. So then you can take this layer after you moved it around. Go. And then, or in this case, I'm going to back up. So that's how we do the layer mask. I'm going to select this guy. Remember, we're going to talk about how to select things. I'm using my selection tools to select him, and I'm going to mask him. Try to make this a clean mask. Once I have my object selected, I'm going to go to the top of my Photoshop here, and then where it says select and mask, and it's still thinking, so let's just give it a minute. So right here at the top, I'll click select and mask. Okay, it pulls up my properties. For sake of time, we'll just say he looks good. I'll hit OK. I'll accept it. There we are. All right. Hi, Mark. Thanks for coming. All right, so now that I've got this little guy all selected, he's masked out. It looks like I have some other stuff that I didn't see. So what I'll have to do is go in with my paintbrush and switch the paintbrush to black and kind of go over it to erase it. We'll go ahead and mute that mic. All right, so then this is just a refresher course on how to clean up your layer mask. I'm using the brush set to black, and I'm just kind of cleaning up these areas. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I do have to get this guy moved in, but I will close out of this layer. I will make this visible. I'm going to delete this shape, and I'm just going to bring in, I'm going to just do a heart because it's easier to cut him out. So I'll go to my custom shapes. Up here at the top, I'm going to select a heart. Hold down Shift as I drag. I'll select both of these and then hold down, make sure my image is on top though. Then I'll hold down Alt Option, and there he goes. He gets cut in there just right. Okay, and then I'm going to take these two layers, and I'm going to go into my final project. Where did I save it? There we go. I'm going to pull him in here. Just going to resize him. Just like that. All right, is everyone with me? Are there any questions? Are we feeling good so far? Okay, good. So that's how I would drag one of my shape masks in. It will ask you to save it. I'm not going to save it right now. That's what I would do if I were doing that. Now I'm going to grab my type. I'm going to close out of this. And I'm also going to drag. I have to select all the layers before you do it. I'm going to drag it right into my assignment. So it's in the right file format, right size, dimensions. And then I'm going to grab a background. So the next background I'm going to grab is the texture map guy. And I'm going to throw it in here. There we have it. Okay. I'm going to unlock it, and I'm going to take it and put it in here. All right, now as you can see, it's not big enough for my poster. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to adjust the size of it first. I just want the background. I don't really care if he's in there. I just like the background personally. All right, so there we go. It's all resized. I'll hit save. I'll apply it. And then I'm going to move it down just like that. Perfect. So now I'm going to select these two. Now, if you have a text mask, what's helpful is if you group the items. So if you select the layer, your image, and then your text mask, if you hit Command G to group, you can group them. It'll hide the layers so you don't see them. So you could label this as this is your text mask. You can always ungroup them if you need, but this allows me to just move the group up and down. With that selected though, I am going to adjust the size a little bit. Now we talked about proximity, contrast, alignment is huge. Alignment's all about how things line up on a page. You don't want things off center. You don't want things, you want it to all be kind of flowing together. Now the one thing I want to focus on is also the hierarchy. So you want the most important element on your page to stand out, to be the star of the show. Everyone else are supporting actors. So in this case, my message is the star of the show because it also happens to be artwork too. So my artwork and message are the star of the show. So they're going to be the largest elements on the page. I'm going to take my layer my background layer. And there's a lot of things you can do. You can adjust the opacity on it so it's not quite so strong. The message, I do want the message to stand out, so perhaps maybe I'll use a blending mode on it. I can use a photo filter. I could do the channel mixer. I can adjust brightness and gradient or exposure. Probably hue and saturation would be a good one. You know, you can adjust colors if I wanted more of a blue to match the blue, and my saturation, I can make it almost black and white if I wanted to. Subtle color to match the letters. I just want it to match. I can adjust the lightness of it or the darkness. And I like more of a lighter background because I can read the letters a little bit better. So this is probably good. I like that. So I'll keep that. So I've already added a hue and saturation adjustment layer. And again, you can play with all of these as you try to experiment what one does. You can add more warmth or not. Okay. And I think that's about it. You can use a gradient too. There we go. You can adjust the gradient. You can use these sliders to increase how dark, how light. So I'm going to use a dark color. Now, if you want to change the color, oops. You can also pick a gradient if you'd like. And kind of move these sliders to give you a different effect. You can add a slider. You can change the color here. So in this case, I could do more blue. I like that dark color though, so I'm going to stick with the dark. I'll hit OK. And again, I'm going to bring this slider over. Hit OK. There we go. All right, so far I've got 2 images placed. I need a third one. And my third one I can enter in at any time. Probably what you could do is do a collage in the letters. That's also a good idea. With this, I'm going to make sure I have my website so that you can kind of see the format. Okay. I'm going to use my type tool. This is going to be www. Of course, we need to adjust the size a little bit. Okay. Let me scroll down. Here we go. And we can't see it, so we'll have to change the color to something we can see. I'll do white. All right, and then this is where I can adjust the fonts. So I'll do something a little bit a thinner font, so it's a little bit more contemporary looking. And then I don't want it italicized, and I don't want it all caps necessarily. I can also adjust the tracking a little bit more spread out. And then when I'm done, grab that. And I'm going to let my smart guides tell me when it's centered. Okay? It'll tell me when I'm aligned with everything. I've got my website here at the bottom. Now notice the Notice the hierarchy here. What is the smallest element on the page so far? The website, right? Because it's just a supporting actor. It's just if you want to know more information, you can go here. But the message is the star of the show, right? Yeah, so the website, other information, it's all small, it's all at the bottom. So you don't make this bigger than your message. Don't make it as big as your message. The thing with hierarchy, and I'm going to be looking for this on the assignment, is that if everything is the same size, if your text is all the same size, then how do we know what's most important, what to focus on? Your audience will be confused. So your job as the designer is to point their eyes to the order that you want them to see things in. Yeah, exactly. So if things do get lost in the similarity. So if things are too similar, like size and color, then there's not going to be any contrast. Now notice, what kind of contrast do I have going here? Where is contrast seen in this poster so far? Yeah, so I've got a dark and a light on my background, but that's not necessarily that is contrast working there. But my real contrast is my busy text and my light background. I'm not using this busy text over a busy background. So I'm trying to keep the background clean because my text is very busy. So it can be multiple things. Yes, there's contrast going on here a lot. And even with that said, I can even lighten up the background even more so that you can tell there's texture, but it's not so distracting from the message. So I've got that lined up there. And then what I can do, let's say I need a third person. If we had time, I would cut out, I could use my selection tool and cut out people on the poster and kind of put them on there. So let me see if I can find, I'll do one. Yes, exactly. Making the background lighter because I have a darker text makes it much easier. That's contrast working there. All right, so I'm going to put this, sorry, I'm downloading the photo. I'm going to put it in Photoshop. So hopefully this is helpful. It kind of shows you, kind of get some ideas going here, shows you what you can do with your text. It shows you what you can do with your background. You're not stuck with just the background that they provide you. So kind of think outside the box. Because like with this one, the guy throwing paint at the wall, I didn't use him at all. I just expanded him out of the picture because it gave me a nice texturized background for my message. And so I liked that, and that's what I used. You don't have to use the whole picture or be forced to use it if you don't want to. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Thanks. Okay, so with that, I'm trying to pull this photo in. It's doing a lot of thinking. Let's see if I can. I might just file embed. We'll go file, place, embed. Go to my downloads, and there's my guy. So what I'll probably do is place a collage of people on my background. You could also put him behind. Kind of cool. You could do a collage of people behind the message too. Let's see. We'll get him placed. And then for the text mask, kind of bring it down. Now it's going to get lost in that dark blue, so I might have to adjust my gradient. Maybe switch it And then bring my guy over. Play around with it. Anyways, you kind of get the idea. So we could do something like that. You can also adjust the scale. So it can be just a slight vignette if you want, or it could be a really dark gradient. So we'll do that. Okay, perfect. I'll hit OK. I'll grab this guy. I want to make sure he's on the right layer. He looks fine. Now I'm going to bring in somebody else. We're going to go for diversity here. Now with his picture, I'm going to have to be careful. I might have to clean him up a little bit because I don't want those edges to show through. So I might have to cut him out. And so I'm going to grab my selection tool. Make sure his layer is selected. You can even hide the text if you're having trouble seeing. Might do that actually because it might be easier. Okay, so I'm going to hide the text so I can see him. Make sure he's selected. I'll go in here and there we go. Just try to do a rough selection. I can always fix it when I go to the select and mask. I'll go to select and mask. It's okay, Amanda. You don't have to change your mind. It's just to show you kind of a demonstration of what you can do with what you have. I'm sure yours won't look exactly like mine, but it's okay if it does. It's just a demo to kind of show you. And my Photoshop is super delayed, so I'm sorry. It's like not letting me go very quickly. But you get the idea, right? Right, guys? Okay. All right, it's not really letting me go. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we'll back out of this. Except, all right, this is a rough. Don't do what I did. Just this is gonna bug me. It's not very clean cut. Anyways, you can have this going over there and just kind of do a collage of people. You don't even have to have the world inside your text. Just get creative. Think of ways to incorporate those photos. You could take them out entirely and put them inside the text. You can change the gradient direction. Remember double clicking on that. Adjusting, do you want to add an angle? Do you want it reflected? That's kind of cool effect. And then have your message up here and then have the people at the bottom. That's also another option. So you could kind of play around with what you want to do. What social issue do you want to cover? You chose him because he's cute. That's funny. Well, it's actually a good picture. Most of them are kind of small, so that's a good one to choose. Okay, so that is the demo for our assignment. Let's go over how to save it. This is important. Points get deducted just as much for submission as they do your application. So export your file as a JPEG. We're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. Did you catch that? So go to File, Export, Save for Web. And if my Photoshop wants to work, super delayed. There we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is save our JPEG. You can adjust the size if you want, but I would recommend just kind of keeping the JPEG low, just so it uploads a little bit better. and then hit done. Then your JPEG is saved. Now you need to go save a PDF. So you'll go to File, Save As, change the format to PDF. Where are you? There it is, Photoshop PDF. Hit Save, and that will also save. So you're going to submit the JPEG and the PDF. You're going to keep your file on hand, your editable file. You can hit Save, say yes. It doesn't have to be high quality. It can be a smaller file size. That's fine. I just want to make sure that you get it uploaded, no problem. Are there any questions? Actually, let me go back to that so you can see your options. I want to make sure you go to Save As. This is for the PDF. Come on. Oh, it's still working. Hang on, I'm going to show you how to save your PDF so it's not so high quality, because high quality is going to mean a very slow upload for you and a very slow download for me. Do I want all the layers? No, I don't need all the layers. Nope, I just want to see your poster. So your poster should have a website, a slogan, 3 composite images that make up your composition. It should be exported as a full-size PDF. Now let's see if it'll let me do it. Okay, Save As. Oh, it's still going. It's 99% there. Fun little fact, at the bottom of your Photoshop, if it ever goes as slow as mine, it does indicate what percentage it's saving at, so you do know if it's doing anything or if it's just stalled. And in my case, it might just be stalled, so hopefully. Does anyone want to demonstrate this for me? Does anyone have Photoshop open right now? It doesn't have to be the actual assignment. I'll navigate, but is anyone? Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop the share because my Photoshop is just not having it. It's already ready to be done with this mod. Okay, go ahead and go to screen share. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to pretend this is our final assignment. It's not, but we're going to pretend. So we're going to go to File. We're going to create a PDF. Go to Save As. I wanted to show you there's a setting to change. Make sure the format is PDF. Good job. You'll hit Save. Oh, don't worry about that. Yeah, make sure it's saved right, but you can just hit Save. And then it will bring up, yeah, hit OK. Okay, now at the top there, do you see where it says Adobe PDF preset? Make sure it says smallest file size. Go all the way to the bottom, because if it's small, it will be a quick upload for you. So it doesn't need to be high res. Now, if you were sending it to the printer, yeah, you would want it to be high quality print. But in this case, I don't need to. And you don't have to preserve Photoshop editing capabilities. That will also add a lot of file size to your PDF. So just hit Save PDF. And you should be good to go. So you'll only have to upload the JPEG and PDF for the final assignment. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. That's perfect. Thanks for driving. Thanks for taking the wheel. Okay, are there any questions as we are done with class? This is our last one, you guys, last live lecture. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Amanda. So Amanda's going to show her assessment. Still going strong. Love it. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic if you want to talk.
Okay. So
Only if you want to.
With my hue saturation, I darkened it a bit.
Perfect.
And I'm sure it's almost completely saturated so that the the patterns are coming through.
That's cool. I like that.
Also, I wanted this tree to be visible because it was almost invisible with the layer that we had to put over it and the uh, brick.
The blending mode.
Yes, the blending mode.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if I could actually make it pop, and I was able to actually make it come through. Plus, I really liked what it did with the gold foil.
I know, that's really cool. I like it's what's fun when I grade this assignment is that everyone's looks completely different. It's really neat to see all the different varieties that you can come up with. But I like this one because you can see the fourth tree. So that's nice that you got it to shine through. Very nice. All right. Mark, did you have a question? I'll go ahead and mute Amanda. Great job, Amanda. It looks wonderful.
Yeah, I had a question, but like I said, it was kind of off topic. It was something that I was trying to do. I was trying to take a picture that I edited on Photoshop,
Mhm.
and I was trying to post it on social media, Facebook, and the only way I was able to do it was kind of, troubleshooting. I actually sent it to an email, to my email. I emailed it to myself, and then I opened it on my iPhone. Then I screenshotted it, and then I posted it. Is there an easier way to do that?
Um, you can it depends. Are you trying to upload it as a like an image or as like the banner, the Facebook banner, or what were you trying what was it just uploading a photo on Facebook?
Yeah, I have a hunting and fishing group on Facebook, and I was trying to make a new like, I guess, banner, and I was just like, it was, I didn't get it done. I ended up just waiting. I was gonna ask the people in the Learning Center, Student Success Center, if maybe
They
they could do
they
it.
could probably help you, but let me show you if you're going to do the Facebook banner, it does need to be at least 399 pixels wide by 150 pixels. So if it's not those specific dimensions, it will not upload your photo. I've done it before. So it has to be those dimensions or it won't upload. So
Where,
that might be why, but I don't know why it would have worked with your phone.
well, because I screenshotted it. Like, I sent it to me in an email, and I just took my iPhone and screenshotted, and then
Huh.
it automatically, I guess, makes it sizes that it needs to be or whatever. But
Maybe, yeah, maybe your phone already has that setting or something. I'm not sure.
how do
Maybe
you?
try just, you can even go into Photoshop when you create a new document and you can set your units of measurement to pixels. And then you can just enter in those values, the dimensions for your banner, and then you shouldn't have a problem.
How would you actually send the file from Photoshop to Facebook?
You would save it as a JPEG,
Yeah.
just like I have here. I pasted it so you can copy this for later. You save it as a JPEG file, and then you would upload, or then you can go place it into your banner.
So I'd have to do all that like from my actual MacBook. I couldn't
Hmm.
on my phone. I couldn't like use both of them. I couldn't like. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you would probably have to use, but you figured out how to do it with your phone, so maybe that's easier than having to go into Photoshop and
I'd rather
resize.
do it directly. That way, if I have future employers and they're like, "Yeah, we want this on our social media," and I'm over here like looking like a noob, like over here Snapchat.
No, 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 you're fine. And maybe just practice the way there's actually a class. Oh, I don't know if they changed the assignment, but there's actually a class that you'll take in the graphic design program where you have to one of your projects is to create a Facebook banner and a Facebook um, photo icon, and so you have to design them with specific dimensions, and then save it as a JPEG, then upload it. So it will have one of the classes will have that as a project. So you'll learn eventually. But if that's what you want to do, you can even just Google it, Facebook banner size, and it will pull it up. There's even a Facebook cheat sheet, like how to do it. There's steps to doing it. So to getting your cover photo uploaded and everything. So
Well, I picked up a new sponsor. What's today? Tuesday. Yeah. I picked up a new sponsor Sunday, and I had to put their logo on my stuff, and that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you could just enter Facebook banner, upload it. I've done it before. You just have to Google it, and it will give you like it's like 5 steps. It's not much at all, and it's pretty simple to do. Or you'll take a class that will show you exactly how to do it. But basically, you just need to have the right dimensions and saved as an RGB JPEG file, and then you can upload it in your. You should be able to just drag and drop.
Okay, well, I'll let you have the floor back. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hope that helps. All right. Well, we are done with our class, so I will excuse everyone. You can go celebrate or cry, whichever one you want to do. But this is it. Thank you so much for being present and participating. It's been so fun having you in class, and I've loved seeing your work. Thank you for a great mod, and I can't wait to see what you turn in for the final project. And the class is not over. We have a multi-session tomorrow, so please come and join me. And if you have any questions, come get help. If that doesn't work for you, go see the Student Success Center or contact our learning coach, DJ Smith. We are here to help. Thank you and have a wonderful night, guys. No, you're so sweet. We'll see you guys. Thanks for coming.
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine wanted to show hers.
Oh, I'm sorry, Catherine. Absolutely. Go ahead and share.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get my bottom one to pop like Amanda did, but I did like the
That's
little
okay.
the sparkles of pink.
So I like what you did. So you even kind of made your bottom left square more of a teal. I see that you.
I love that.
Yeah,
then-
I like that. I like that color too. That's awesome. That almost looks like the one I did. Because I liked the purple and the teal coming through. But yes, I love your stars. You can see that. You can even faintly see the one on the bottom right too. So it is there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like that one a lot.
Okay.
See, everyone's is gonna look totally different, but it's custom to you. So that's perfect. And you did implement the layers correctly, and the textures look great. So
And I finally got it to line up.
you got it. Oh, good job. Well, I was going to say, you and Amanda, since you finished in class, you can go ahead and submit it, and you're done with this one. So 1 down, guys. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, maybe, or if not, I can't wait to see your projects on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Led Zeppelin. Can't wait to see that one. You're not going to have pink sparkles, Mark? Pink stars shining through? No. All right. Well, you guys have been great. We'll see you later. Have a great Tuesday evening. See ya.